Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Argent Saga, and today we are going to be getting into another budget Brewsday. This week it is going to be mono wind, or mono air, so our champion and our spirit are Etan, the Exile Prince, and Kite, the Air Spirit. So quick disclaimer about budget Brewsdays, they are meant to be a budget series for anyone who's trying to get into the game of Argent Saga. And if your favorite color is air, this is a good starting point for you to get in. To play the air attribute. Hold on, my camera's be a little weird. I'm gonna see if that works a little better. Hopefully, maybe we'll find out. But yeah. So, we gotta realign it. There we are. Beautiful. All right, perfect. But yeah, so that's the purpose of this series. If you want to try and play air, this is a good starting point for you. I took this to my locals. I didn't do too well. I went up against two really aggressive decks and then kind of another combo control deck. So aggro's a really bad matchup for this deck, but I also misplayed a few times. So like, there's a bunch of underlying factors, but the deck's still a lot of fun. You can still get there. I also wasn't being as aggressive with the deck as I should have been. So, and, feel free to make this deck and try and play test it yourself, add more cards and take some cards out of the whole nine. So quick disclaimer, I like to try and keep the decks around $50. This is actually our first, and I think one of our only ones that's actually going to go over our budget a little bit. So, like, I'm going to push it to about, like, $60. So, this deck should cost you around 60, if not a little less, or a little over 50. We have two rares in this deck compared to the one, just because I felt like this deck needs both the rares. Or no, we have three rares, actually, because it needs all the rares they can get. And all of them are just really relevant. But, so we're going to jump right in. So, first up is Etan. He is your champion. He has his ability is once per turn, you can pay one, sacrifice a unit you control, put into play an air unit from your hand whose cost is one greater than the sacrificed unit. So you can help extend plays, pretty much cheat really big things out for just one. He's really good. He's one of the best champions in the game for like combo potential, and he's just real dumb. I like him as a champion. And Kite, debatably the best spirit in the game right now because of Sylphia, is a spirit with two effects. One of it is once per turn during your turn, discard one card, return target air unit you control to its owner's hand, and if you do, switch one of your exhausted shards to active mode. And then it has a Soul Burst, which you'll flip it face down. It's your once per game effect. And you can bounce a 3-drop or less from the field to your hand, either side of the board. This can also let you further extend your plays. It's technically a form of ramp, which is really strong. If you can afford a Sylphia, you can constantly bounce Sylphia and just keep doing really silly shenanigans. We kind of have like a combo similar to that, but it's more... But we'll get into that a little later. So... But next up are 5 basic towers. You get these out of the starter or out of the intro deck. They're all the really basic ones. I think that when we get newer towers, it'll probably change up, but that also just depends on budget and how much they'll end up being. So the special shard lets you destroy augments, which I feel like is real good, but it's better in it was potentially a little over budget since we were already adding 3 rares, and I felt like it wasn't needed. So right now we're just running the basics. You can definitely get the special shard, though. It will definitely help out, especially with between Philosopher's Stones and just against like Liam Kite and stuff. So definitely look into that. So next up, we're going to get into the main deck. So we have 3 Skyship Engineer. It helps you get off certain effects. It's also a 1-drop, 1K, so it can break towers really easily if you want to be really aggressive. Just a really good card. Really one of the best 1-drops in this game. And in the deck. I wouldn't say in the game, but still pretty good. Then we have Sky Recruit. His effect is real simply. It's a 1-drop 500, and he searches his deck for another. And you search your deck on arrival for another Sky Recruit. So you just thin out your deck. You can use these as Etan fodder. You can use fodder. You can use these as discard fodder for Kite. They're just really good, and they're a Skyraider, so you can use your Skyraider effects to help further extend more plays. Next up, we have Skytree Aviator. She's a 2-drop, 1K, so a little bit underpowered, but still really strong. She is also a Skyraider, so that helps for all your Skyraider effects. And hers is Exhaust. You can return it back to its hand, to its owner's hand, and if you do, your airships gain 1,000 power. You rarely use her for the power boost. You're mainly going to use her to proc off certain effects, which you'll see later on in the deck, but that doesn't mean that she's not useful in those situations. Like if you have a blockade ship, you declare a blockade, something really big, you can aviator, make it a 35, and just save your ship. So, really good card. I might cut one for some cards coming out in the future, but that's still to be determined. So next up, we're going to get into one of our first rares, and that's a Skytree Hawk. So this card's real good. It's a little hard to read, I know, but I'll read it to you. It's a 2-drop 1K. It's a unit B, so not a Skyraider, sadly, but that's totally fine. And then it reads, when this card is returned to your hand from the field, you can discard this card to draw 2 cards. So this is mainly one of your big targets that you'll want to use Kite for, because you'll use it to bounce it back, or discard a card, bounce it back, untap a shard. Then, because it was returned to its hand, because it was returned to your hand, you can discard it to draw 2. So, just really good. You basically just, like, cycle through. It's really good. It's a 2-drop, so you can E-Tan into it from Sky Recruit. Another target for E-Tanning for Sky Recruit, we have the one Santi Traveler. It's really meant for, like, being a little bit more aggressive. I'm probably going to take it out for some of the better cards that I was able to pick up on my locals. But it's not a bad card. Whenever he attacks, you switch one of your shards to active. He's a little bit above charisma, as a 2-drop 15. But I don't know. He's just real good. But I don't know. I think there can definitely be room for it. So sticking with the theme of only buying 2 starter decks for the budget Brewsdays. Great Hawk the Cloud Sea, really good card. If you have the money for it, definitely pick up a third. There's literally never a time that this card's not going to be good. Its arrive is if there's a destroyed air tower, you can exhaust a unit and return another unit to its owner's hand. That could be your units, your opponent's units, whatever else you need to do. Just really good card. Next up is a card that it's actually one of my favorite cards in the game, and one of the reasons why I was super excited to play this deck was a Skytree Dragon, as y'all can see from my my YouTube picture. It's one of my favorite cards. It's a 3-drop 2K. It's a dragon, so it has dragon synergies, but we're not really any other synergies with stuff with dragons. And it hasn't arrived. If 2 or more of your air units were returned to your hand this turn, return target unit to its owner's hand. And then whenever it attacks, target unit cannot use Guardian. So this card can get around Guardian cards, can force your opponent to have to use more resources for it, and at just the price of bouncing 2 cards, which between your engineers, your aviators, and this next card, it's not too hard. There's still more cards. Like I was able to pick up a playset of Etan the Righteous Outlaw. He's a super rare. It's one of the cards you should definitely put in this deck. It'll help Skytree Dragon proc off a little bit more. So next up, we have Tree Marksman. He is another Skyraider. He's real great, in my opinion. He's a 3-drop 15, so a little under par, but still really strong. Has arrived, you can return another target air unit you control to its owner's hand. If you do, deal 1,500 to target unit. So you can just hard cast this guy, save some guys. You can flash him in with a card that we'll get to later on in the video to save your guys, shoot something for 15. Just a really good card. He also has really good synergies with some of the airships because he's a Skyraider. So, all in all, just a great card. He's lets you help further extend your plays, helps you get there for your Skytree Dragon plays. Next up, we have 2 Skytree Blockade ships. Really good card. It has Guardian, that's one thing I noticed about this deck. This deck's really low on Guardian cards, so I might try and throw some more cards in there later on, maybe, or at least when I get a finished build of it. But it's a 4-drop 2,500. I don't think I mentioned that. It's an airship, so it counts for all your airship effects, and it reads the unit in front of this card cannot attack. So because this is the only card that kind of cares about where you put your units and where your opponent puts your units, because you can stop one thing from just specifically attacking. So just a really good card. I might cut it to 1 just because it's really situational, but it's still not a bad card. One of Skytree Sandship, 4-drop 2K. It's an airship. Has an arrive, exhaust target units, so this is a really good target to E-tan into. Like, you can get rid of a great hawk into this, tap something, and just deal with like 2 to 3 things. And its ruined effect is you can, when it dies, you can put into play a Skyraider of 2 or less from your discard into your hand or into the field. So you can add back Aviator, Sky Recruit, or Engineer. So just really good card. So our other rare, or our second rare in the deck, is Garga, the Keeper of Gales. It's a 5-drop, 3k unit beast. Has an arrive, choose a cost, return all units of the chosen cost to their owner's hands. If 2 or more units were returned this way, this card gains quickness. So this card's your game ender. He can basically blow out an entire board and just pretty much help you get there. Helps you be really aggressive. 1 Skytree battle cruiser. It can't be targeted by spells, which is real good. It means your opponent has to hard try and like ran into it or use abilities. And its ruined effect is you can put into play a Skyraider unit of cost 3 or less from your discard into play. 1 warship. It's your destroyer of the deck. You can E-tan into it. I didn't realize they were so far up. Sorry, everybody. Its arrive is you can destroy target unit of cost 4 or less. Its ruined is you can bring back a Skyraider unit or an airship unit of cost 4 or less back into play. So you can pretty much just recycle things. It's just real good. Getting into our spells, we have 2 tornado shots. It can only be played if you return an air unit to your hand, instacast, and it deals 2k to something. It's good with all your aviators and engineers and all the things that let you return stuff to hand, but it's definitely not. It's not something you want a full playset of. The one you do want a full playset of is Hurricane Shot. It's as an additional cost, you bounce back a air unit to your hand, and then you destroy something 4 or less. It's really strong. Most of your really good units in the game will cost about 4 or less. So, 1 Royal Reflection, probably going to drop it for something else. It did save me 1 game, but it just against a Twilight Knight, but it's just not as good as needed. Next up, we have Skytree Command Center. It's the last, or one of the last cards that I edited in the deck from Betrayal. It's a 1-drop augment. Whenever a unit is returned to your hand from the field, place a counter on this card, and then you can exhaust or remove any number of counters. Put into play a unit equal to the amount of counters that were removed. So it's not just locked to an attribute. You can just flash stuff in. It's just really strong. There's no reason not to run it. I personally feel like there's no reason not to run it. I feel like with how I'm trying to make this deck, it's definitely good. And then the last 2 cards of the deck, rounding it out. 2 Monarch Sky Daggers. I really wish I got a 3rd. I was able to pick one up after the tournament. But I'm going to run this card as 3 because it's really good. Because you always want to see this whenever you try and do a kite play. Because you discard this, bounce back a unit, untap it or untap a shard, and this card reads: you put the attached unit gets a counter. You can remove a counter, shoot something for 5, or the unit gets plus 500 for the turn. Don't really care about that. What you want is, its last effect, which is if a unit is returned from the field to your hand, if this card's in your discard, you can add it back to your hand. So you'll pay this as the cost for kite, bounce something back. This gets added back to hand. So you just always have cards in hand. You always have discard fodder for kite. And worst comes to worst, you can just attach it and make something plus 5. And a lot of people don't think plus 5 is relevant, but it actually is in this game, especially in this deck, to help you kill certain things. So, but all in all, that's our mono air deck. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know what y'all think. Like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell so you know notifications about it. We also hit 40 subscribers, guys, so giant thank you to all of you. I think once we hit around 100, I'll probably try and do a giveaway. I'm probably trying to give out like an expansion set, you know. But anyways, y'all have a great day. This is Argent Saga signing off. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.